welcome to the webcast today on how to deliver projects efficiently with BIM models and the cloud. My name is Jatin, and I am the AEC Tech Consulting Lead here at VinZero. So today we'll be going over how cloud-based design workflows, which empowers all the design teams to deliver well-coordinated deliverables, adapt to changes, and work off a single source of truth. This webinar will cover topics such as a cloud-first approach in the design stage, having a single source of truth for project teams, management of the clash detection process in the cloud, and project insights as well. There will be a short Q&A session at the end, so please feel free to jump in with some questions then. Before we get to the main topics, just a brief overview of what VinZero is and does. We are a solutions organization that fosters innovation through delivering software and hardware solutions, consulting, training, development, and managed services. We've become a trusted advisor to our clients due to the breadth and depth of our service offering and technical expertise, our commercial agility, and understanding of customer service. We have a excellent ANZ footprint with offices in large parts of Australia and New Zealand. We're actually one of the largest Autodesk partners in the world and considered by businesses we deal with to be a trusted advisor. Again, we offer services such as data management, BIM implementation, consulting services, CAD management services, on-site and online training, and customized content creation. The majority of VinZero A2K staff are from the industry, so we understand the challenges our clients face, and therefore we can deliver solutions through a combination of experience and innovation. A little bit about me. My name is Jatin Sharma. I have over 7 years experience in the AEC industry as a BIM manager, designer, and technical instructor. Currently, my role at VinZero is that of a AEC Tech Consulting Lead, and my software skills include AutoCAD, Revit, the Autodesk Construction Cloud, Navisworks, Format, 3ds Max, and Assemble. I'm also a qualified Revit certified professional and an Autodesk certified trainer. Okay, now that the intros are done, we can get into the meat of the webinar. Here's a quick agenda. So we'll first start off by understanding how design collaboration process has evolved over the last several years, going from shared drives or local servers to becoming truly cloud-based solutions. So from there, knowing that cloud-based solutions are available, we'll go over how you can embed this into your design workflows. And by having your BIM models in the cloud through that, cloud-based design workflows, we can also start to leverage things like on-demand coordination processes, such as clash detection, assigning clash issues to different disciplines, and tracking those issues all the way through to resolution. And lastly, we can also gain some unique project insights that are captured throughout the design authoring and coordination process in the form of project insights, and then we can take those learnings moving forward into future projects. And of course, there will be a Q&A session at the end. We will kind of blend in live demos as we're going through each topic, so it won't just be a PowerPoint. We'll showcase some features as well. Okay, so first off, how has the design authoring collaboration process been evolving in the last several years? Now, I'm going to take Revit as an example, but this can be extended to other design authoring tools such as your AutoCAD or Civil 3D to some extent as well. So initially, we started off with just having what we called Revit Central models in our company's shared drives, and users would just tap into that central model and work away. Okay, so that's this section here. The problem with that is that there was limited collaboration if you couldn't be in the office or if you had to work with external consultants on bigger projects. There was daily manual BIM management tasks that could have been automated, but then it was all manual. And there wasn't actually any internal activity tracking either. So from there, there was a bit of an evolution to what we called Revit servers. Okay, so that's when users could connect to a server within an organization that hosted these Revit centralized models. So for larger organizations, this extended to multiple servers across different regions. This actually resulted in new problems such as expensive hardware, really slow data exchange to and from the server, particularly if you used VPN. In fact, actually, if you used the VPN workflow, you would, in a lot of circumstances, end up corrupting your Revit model, or someone's changes that they were working on don't actually save to the server environment. But now we have what we call the cloud-based approach. Okay, so this actually eliminates all of those pain points. So first, there's no need to worry about hardware. So the cloud platform itself sits on AWS servers. And from there, the other benefits that you gain is that it's now all of your data, it's within a common data environment with the ability to set up control permissions so you can safely and effectively work on projects with external consultants with no manual download and upload process. So you're still getting that security that you're getting from a server approach or a shared drive approach. You can also automate BIM-related tasks in the cloud and have extensive tools for project management and delivery. This is primarily the reason why currently it's a recommended solution for design collaboration, and we're seeing a lot of companies migrate towards this cloud-based approach. And from an Autodesk perspective, the cloud solution itself is called the Autodesk Construction Cloud. So if we start talking about the Autodesk Construction Cloud, the Autodesk Construction Cloud is a unified platform that connects workflows, teams, and data at every stage of design and construction to reduce risk, maximize efficiency, and ideally increase profits. So we can see a graphic here which broadly separates each stage of the construction lifecycle and what capabilities the ACC platform has, or rather it can provide at any said stage. So the best part about this platform for me is the idea that the entire project lifecycle from design all the way to handover can exist in one common data environment, and different teams can leverage the capabilities of ACC in accordance with their role. So for example, if you are an architect, you would leverage the use of design collaboration to work with other consultants on the live model. The same live model can be accessed by a team involved with cost management processes. So you have all these different teams working together and coexisting in one source of truth. So for the purposes of this webinar, we'll be focusing on the ACC capabilities around design. Okay. So we know that the Autodesk Construction Cloud is the cloud-based platform. Okay, so we understand that. The product BIM Collaborate Pro is the license in which you buy to have access to the design and coordination-based features within the Autodesk Construction Cloud. So if we put all of the features accessible through buying BIM Collaborate Pro together in one place, it looks like the slide here. So broadly speaking, you can also think of each square, okay, as modules within the Autodesk Construction Cloud environment. And what modules you can have access to is dependent on the licensing that you have. So if you have BIM Collaborate Pro, you have access to, within the Autodesk Construction Cloud, you have access to docs, okay? You have access to design collaboration and model coordination. The Revit Cloud work sharing is a feature as part of the whole license, and that kind of sits in that design collaboration space. Okay, so if we see like a demo of this in action, I'm just going to open up my Chrome environment. So you can see here, this is the splash page for the Autodesk Construction Cloud. Okay, So from here, the first thing that you would do is you would create a project. Okay, so you're creating a project inside this Autodesk Construction Cloud environment. So click on Create New Project. You would put in a name. So I might put in my name and say it's my project. You can give it a number if you would like. Next, you'd select the account. So for most users, it would just be one account, so whatever organization that you're with. As a consultant, I'm part of multiple different accounts, but from an end user perspective, it would just be one account, and that's the company that you're involved with. Next is project type. So you can select what different type of project you're about to create. So I might just choose single family housing. Just note that everything that is asterisk is compulsory. Everything else is optional. You can, if you wish to, attach what we call a project template so that folders, permissions, setup processes, etc., actually happen automatically. So that's something that you can do. And if you do need assistance, just get in touch with us. So from here, I don't really need to add in anything else. I can just go create new project. And that will start the project creation process. Okay. Again, this is all happening in the cloud environment, right? So nothing to do with my desktop. You can see here at the top, we've got the Autodesk Construction Cloud platform. And if I click on this little downward arrow, you'll see that currently available in this project, I have no modules. Okay, so you have to turn on the functionality within the Autodesk Construction Cloud. And what functionality you can turn on depends on the license that you buy. Okay, so I've got access to multiple different modules, but for the purposes of today's webinar, you would have bought something like a BIM Collaborate Pro license. So if you've bought BIM Collaborate Pro, we have Autodesk Docs, we have Design Collaboration, and Model Coordination. Okay, so your first task would be to turn on these modules. So I would turn on my Autodesk Docs, which is the document management side of the Autodesk Construction Cloud. And then I would turn on Design Collaboration, which is being able to create package workflows and work with external consultants. And lastly, I would turn on Model Coordination, which is all around coordination processes such as clash detection, etc., etc. As I'm clicking through these modules, you can see that little green icon pop up. Okay, so if I just jump back to my slide for a second, right? So I've turned on these modules here. So Docs, Design Collaboration, and Model Coordination. And I can turn these on because I have BIM Collaborate Pro. Okay. So if we jump back to my environment, so I've turned on these modules. So now if I was to click on this little arrow, you can see that I've got these modules available for me. So I can actually start the setup process. The first thing that I would recommend that you start setting up is Autodesk Docs. So you would click on the Docs module here, which will let you access the functionality around Docs. Oops, I'll just jump back into my project for a second. There we go. This is the Docs environment here. So currently right now I've got no folders or subfolders set up, but I can click on these three little dots and I can start creating some subfolders and start creating permissions. Okay, there's a whole heap of things you can do just in this module here. We have done a webinar recently called Autodesk Docs Empowerment. So feel free to go on YouTube, check that out. It goes over everything around Autodesk Docs in a little bit more detail. So if you kind of gone through the setup correctly, you should end up with something like this. So I've got a demo project that I like to use that has been fleshed out. So you can see here that I've created folders and subfolders in accordance to the typical ISO 19650 process. So under work in progress, for example, I've got different disciplines. Okay, and if I click on these three little dots, I can go to permission settings and I can see that, for example, only the architect has access to the architecture folder. only building services has access to the services folder, mechanical, etc., etc. Okay, so the idea is that all of the design is happening under one single source of truth, which is this environment here, and we're just leveraging different pieces of information that we need to go through our processes. Okay, so all the different design teams are kind of honing in this one environment. So at a high level, that's what the setup looks like, and that's what these modules mean. Okay. So now that we have a high level kind of understanding around the Autodesk Construction Cloud and licensing, let's talk about how we can incorporate the cloud into our design collaboration processes. Okay. So the module itself is called Design Collaboration. Okay. And with it, we're able to manage design exchanges between teams, track milestones, and conduct 2D and 3D analysis and changes. Okay. The benefits around that is that we're really reducing our rework because we're able to track project activity, and I'll show you that in just a second. We're able to facilitate model exchange and deliverable coordination all in one accessible area. We can actually understand changes which are essentially in context between aggregated models in a single space. And we're also able to navigate through change visualization by team, phase, building level, etc., etc. Okay. So if we take a look at what that looks like from a Autodesk Construction Cloud perspective, that's the design collaboration module here. Okay. So if we imagine a live project scenario, we've got our folders set up, the teams are working away and they're publishing their models into the cloud, whether it's DWG files or Revit models, Plant 3D, Civil 3D, etc. They're all working away in this common data environment. Okay. If you do want information on how to take your local Revit model or your local Civil 3D model and put it into the cloud, we have done webinars on this as well. So for Revit, it's called Revit and BIM Collaborate Pro. And for Civil 3D, it's called Civil 3D and BIM Collaborate Pro. So you can look into those on our YouTube channel as well. But essentially, once these models are in here, we can go over here to Design Collaboration. And if I click on these three little dots, you should be able to see all of our different, what we call swim lanes of different teams. So we have mechanical, civil, services, structure, architecture. Okay. And that comes from some of the folders and subfolders we created under docs. So you can see here the teams under work in progress, under shared. You can see those teams. These folders correspond back to the design collaboration feature here. Okay. So at a high level, if you're someone that was more sort of project managing this project, you can see the different activities the teams were conducting in their own internal folders, as well as those shared folders. So for example, I can see that there's a shaded square here, which means that the structure team has consumed my model, which is the architecture model, on the 27th of July, 2021. If I take a look at perhaps architecture, I can see that we have shared a model on the 22nd in 2021. Okay. Similarly, if I was part of the structure team, I can see that architecture has shared a model for us to take a look at on the 5th of July, 2022. Okay. So it gives you an initial indication through these symbols, but there's a little bit more that you can do here. Okay. So let me first go through how to share a package, and then we can go through some of the change visualization stuff that we can do. So let's say I was part of the architecture team and I needed to share my model with the other consultants. All you would do is you would click on this plus button over here to create a new package. Okay, so what's happening in this area here is that it's taking the models which are located in the appropriate work in progress folder. Okay, so this is architecture. If we click on this little plus icon, it's going to now go ahead and fetch our different models. And if I click on the models section here, you can see I've got different models available. And like I say, it works with DWG, works with Revit, works with Civil 3D and Plant 3D. Okay, so this is my Revit model, for example. I can take a quick look, make sure everything's okay. I can do things like measure tool, section analysis, etc., etc. And if I'm happy, I can just click on this little square and hit the save button. When I hit the save button, it's going to go ahead and save this package. Now, if I look at this timeline symbol, you can see here under the architecture stream, I've got a node here which says, hey, you've created a package on the 2nd of March, 2023. If I hit the share button, I can give it a name, I can give it a description, and then once I hit the share, this will now update to say to all the other teams to say, hey, architecture has shared their model, it's time for everyone to take a look at it. So what would happen is that, let's say I was part of services. Let's say, so I know that architecture have shared their model. Let's say, let's go back in time a little bit. Let's say that they shared on the March 24, 2022. I can click on this node, so this package, and take a look at what they're sharing. Okay, so I'm doing all of this in the cloud without corrupting my model. Okay, so I can click on this model. I could even, if I wanted to, hit compare. And what compare does is that it helps you visualize changes between the last time, for example, architecture shared their model with their latest version, just to verify if everything's going correctly. So I could hit this compare button over here, and I could say, well, so you can see here between version 4 and version 5, there aren't any changes. So I wonder why the architecture team are sharing their new version. I could go back in time if I wanted to as well. So I could say, well, what's the difference between version 3 and version 5? So the model that they shared in the 22nd of April, as opposed to the model that they shared on the 24th of March. So let's take a look. So I can click on show changes. Again, I'm doing all of this in the cloud, right? So this is why this cloud-based approach is so appropriate. I'm being able to analyze, slice and dice my data without actually having to go into something like Revit or Civil 3D, et cetera, et cetera. So I can see here there's about 7,000 different objects which were modified. I can go take a look. So I could click on any door, for example, and see what was changed. I could take a look, for example, this bed got changed, et cetera, et cetera. I could even go backwards if I wanted to. So if I click on this compare again, let's go all the way back to version 2. For example, so there's about 10,000 changes there, and I can hit show changes and it will start calculating all of this in the cloud. So again, hardware requirement is not a problem because it's all happening in the cloud. I can see here between version 2 and version 5 of the architectural model, there's about 1 component that got added, 2 got deleted, 10,000 other objects got modified. I mean, if you take a look at this model, if I had to manually figure out what exactly got added, it would take me forever. But I can just uncheck these 2, and I can say, well, I want to know what actually got added. And that was just this 1 door here. So there was this 1 door change in this entire model, okay? And the cloud environment has enabled me to figure out what got changed. Okay, similarly, same thing with deleted. So these 2 water coolers were deleted in the latest version, but they were showing in version 2. Okay. If this feels a little bit overwhelming, like, let's say I'm really interested in modified, right? But there's 10,000 different things that are being changed. Well, how can we make this a little bit better? One of the things you can do is that you can leverage something called changes over here. So you can create something that we call watch groups, where we can say, hey, I'm only interested in, for example, the architecture model, and I'm only interested to know if certain parts of the architectural model are being changed. So for example, if I'm only interested in, let's say foundations or even walls. Okay, I'm only interested in the walls. So what's happening here is that I can select all the walls, I can hit next. And so the next time any changes happen to these walls, I'll get a notification. Okay, so you can take a high level using the compare button over here, or you can dive a bit deeper using changes and creating a watch group. Okay, and once you've created some of these watch groups, you can even incorporate it back into your BIM meetings as well. Okay, so that's how design collaboration at a high level typically gets used. If you're worried about, well, I want a little bit more automation, Jordan. I want to know, for example, when structure team are sharing their model or the architecture team are sharing their model, we don't get notifications of this. That's a big problem. You can leverage this button here called email notifications. If you turn this on, you will receive an email every time a package is shared or consumed. Okay, so if you wanted to, you can start introducing some of these automation tools, such as email notifications. You can introduce another automation tool, which is around schedule publish. Okay, so you can turn this on and it's a controlled permission. But if you do, you can schedule it to say, well, every Thursday, I want the system to automatically publish what we've done. Let's say at like 3 p.m. on a Thursday, I want the system to automatically publish what we've done in Revit into design collaboration. So all this now is becoming available, which wasn't using the traditional approach of shared drives or local servers. Okay. Okay, so now that we kind of understand the BIM models are in the cloud, and like I said, it works for Plant 3D, Civil 3D, not just Revit. But once all that's in there, now the entire project team can be involved in the clash detection and resolution process. You can identify issues and you can try and solve them without waiting for coordination meetings. Okay, the cloud environment automatically detects clashes whenever the models are updated, groups it by objects, and from there, you can create and assign issues. The module which is responsible for this is called model coordination. Okay. So there's a bit of miscommunication around the model coordination workflow. So I thought I'd create this graphic here to use. Okay. So from a workflow perspective, you have your different consultants, okay? And what they do is they upload their models into the Autodesk Construction Cloud environment, okay? And then when they do this, the cloud environment will automatically start conducting the clash detection process. So as soon as the model gets updated or uploaded into the environment, the clash detection process starts happening, okay? So once that happens and you grab a cup of coffee, you come back and you're like, okay, I want to see what's happening. You can start to view all of the clashes in real time. Okay. Once you do this, then you can decide, can I resolve the issues that I'm seeing in the cloud clash detection process? If yes, I can just upload a new model. It will go through this process again, and I can check to see if that's resolved the issue. If I can't resolve the clash issue, well, then I need to create an issue in the cloud and then discuss it at the next coordination meeting. Okay. So let's take a live demo of this in action. So I'm just going to jump back to my project here. So again, the module that we're interested in is model coordination. Okay. So the teams are working away, they've uploaded their files, and while that's happening, model coordination in the background is grabbing all of those files and conducting clash detection processes. So you can see here some clashes happening already. Okay, so this is at a high level, but I can click clashes over here, and that's going to give it to me from a card perspective, okay? So for example, if I hover over this card here, it's saying there's about 67 clash groups between the services fire coordination as opposed to the architectural model, okay? And there's 44 issues between the rest of services and fire specifically, and there's 2,000 issues happening between architecture and services, etc., etc. If I'm interested in finding out more, I can just click on this card, okay? So I can click on this card and it'll say, yep, it's going to load and start showing me the latest coordination data. Okay. So I've got my two models here. I can group it by object, and I can actually say, well, I want to show clashes either within a certain range, above a value, or below a value. So I might say, well, I want to see all the clashes that are happening between 5 millimeters and 15 millimeters. Okay, so you can see here that's changed it to say 17 clashes specifically that's in this particular range. Now, obviously, this is a big model, and let's say I'm interested in this fire alarm issue. So I can go ahead, click on it, and just click on this again. There we go. So now I can take a look at what's clashing. I can go to this elbow issue as well if I wanted to. I could say, well, I want to see from 0 to 15, and now you can see that's changed again. Okay, if there's a particular one that I want further assistance with, like let's say, for example, let's pick one. Let's say there's like a keypad issue here. So you can see this keypad is cutting into the partition. If I wanted to, I can click on this and say, well, actually, I don't think this is something I can fix easily. I actually need to create an issue. So I would click on create issue, show the exact location of the clash issue, and it will go ahead and start creating that issue for me. Okay, so what it's going to do is that it's going to grab all of this data. And when it comes up, there we go. I can give it so it uses some of this information already to help you create titles and types and descriptions, but you can edit those any way you want. And you can say, well, this is something that, the services team, the building services engineer needs to take a look at, let's say. So I can assign it to the building services engineer. I can attach some additional information, but they're going to get a notification of not just a link to this issue, but a quick screenshot as well. Okay, so now this becomes a trackable issue, right? So now we have an activity log. So when they take a look at this and there's a resolution process, it all gets recorded in this activity log. Okay. Again, if you're worried that, hey, look, this is a bit of a high level thing, and I'm not interested in all these other models, I'm only interested in what's relevant to me, that's fine. You can go up here to views and you can actually create particular views that you're interested in. So for example, I've got one for architecture and services. I got one for electrical versus fire. So you can create these views and you can give them a privacy level as well, whether you want to share it with everyone in your team. Is it just for yourself? Is it for the whole project, etc., etc.? Okay, so you can create your own custom views, similar to what we did with design collaboration, the watch group feature in design collaboration. Okay, and then what you can do from here is that once you've generated some of those issues, you can go to the meetings tab and you can actually conduct your BIM coordination meeting in this platform, and then you can use the issues that you're creating and show them and go through everything all within this platform. When you go to create a new meeting, you can also link things like your Zoom or your Teams, etc., etc. So for example, If I was to give it a topic, I could give it items, I could give it attachments, and I can link in those issues as well. Okay. So that's a bit around model coordination. So as soon as this model, for example, the architecture model gets updated, this clash detection process under here gets updated automatically. Okay, so you can see it's always loading the latest coordination data. Okay, so that's a little bit around model coordination. And finally, let's talk about some insights that we can gain as well. So we've gone through high-level overview of the design collaboration, the model coordination, docs, which is the document management side of things. So when we're going through all these workflow processes, we can actually gain some insights. So it's not all just going to be what we call dumb data. There's some stuff that we can actually gain from it. So between Autodesk Docs, which is the foundation of Autodesk Construction Cloud and BIM Collaborate Pro, this feature actually aggregates all of the project data across the entire lifecycle to give you a really clear picture into project performance, which allows you to make quicker and more informed business decisions and predict issues before they become costly holdups. It also has prediction and analytics capabilities as well. Okay, so the system itself goes through the project homepage, the dashboards, it goes through integrations, you can customize it. And the idea is that you can let it give you exactly what type of data that you want to help you prioritize like your day, help you prioritize from a project perspective and figure out what risks that you could potentially have. Not just from a company perspective, but from a overall, multiple companies, multiple locations, and not just like a singular project. So as a quick look of what that looks like in Autodesk Construction Cloud, if I go over to the Insight tab, this is our dashboards here. Okay, so I've got my own dashboard. So I've got a quality risk and a safety risks as well. I've got some open RFIs and submittals, etc. But if I go to design, so I've created a dashboard around design. And you can see here, it's actually delivering some smarts to me. So it's saying, hang on, you've got around 23 issues that are still open that you need to take a look at. This is a high-level overview of what those issues are and what that due date is. So we'll highlight in red if it's overdue. So that's overdue by about 2 years. So that's probably a little bit late. But over here, there's a risk factor. So the system is going in and taking a look at the issues that we're creating and the coordination data, et cetera, and it's saying, well, actually, you've got some problems here around overdue reviews. There's some documentation which is actually incomplete. There's a couple of critical components actually that are causing you issues. So one of them is a duplicate foundation, which of course is definitely a critical component, right? So it's actually notifying that to me. And there's a modeling issue around the roof as well that I need to take a look at. Okay, so there's a bit of AI technology that is being incorporated into this as well. It's not just a pure reporting tool. Okay, we can triage the issues that are happening by company. We can see a trend, whether, at what time period usually do the design issues start being raised more often, et cetera, et cetera. And the other one that I quite like is the coordination issues active versus closed. So what's that trend looking like? Are we closing more than the new ones that we're identifying? Is that relevant to the part of the project that we're in right now? Okay. And you can start creating your own around quality, safety, project controls, et cetera, et cetera. You can leverage the executive summary overview, which is the so right now you're looking at a project perspective, but if you click on executive overview, you can see it across all of your projects. So not just one. Okay. And there's things around data connectors, which let you integrate with something like Power BI. You can create other custom cards as well. So things from Esri, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot that you can do in this insight area as well. And this is all feeding from that information that's coming through from docs, design collaboration, and model coordination. Okay. This kind of comes towards the end of our webinar. Before we get into questions, I've got some resources that you can leverage. So this is a quick BIM Collaborate Pro guide. There's some, some things we talked around the timeline symbols for design collaboration. If you need help understanding what the different symbols mean, you can leverage this link here.